Hey everyone, it's Olivia here, back with another dive into the intriguing world of Reddit stories. Today, we're exploring one of life's most mind-boggling mysteries, coincidence. Have you ever had one of those moments that made you question reality? Well, get ready to be amazed because we're delving into the most bizarre coincidences people have experienced. So, buckle up and prepare to be amazed by the twists and turns of fate. Let's jump right in. Story 1. Back in 1995, I was friends with a girl. We were about 14 to 15 years old. One day she calls late at night, my mom answering and handing the phone to me. She was calling to say goodbye. Thankfully, I was able to talk her out of it after speaking to her for hours. She called again a few days later, thanking me for saving her life, but saying her family was moving her away. We lost touch. Fast forward to about a year ago, I stumble upon a picture she gave me and thought to look her up on social media, hoping she was living a good life. Turns out she's the girl my old best friend best man at my wedding married and had a kid with a few years back. I hadn't recognized her as she went from blonde to brunette and wasn't using the same first name iteration. I haven't spoken with my old friend in years, but I think it's fun how they might not realize they both know me. I can't imagine my old friend having many pictures of me lying around, as we were kids in the 90s, not many pictures left of that time. So unless she saw one and recognized me, they might not realize it. Story 2. I was on a date with a girl once, and we were driving in my car to wherever we were going. I was telling her a story about a friend of mine who'd recently gotten rear-ended right as we were stopping at a red light. While I was telling her the story, a car in the next lane went flying past and rear-ended a stopped car. As I was talking and saw it, I pointed to it and said, "It was just like that right there." Took a few seconds for it to sink in how strange of a coincidence it was. Story 3. I ended up in hospital following a car accident on my 18th birthday. Ended up sharing a room with a girl who was in a different car accident also on her 18th birthday. We ended up figuring out, or actually our mothers figured out, that we were both born in the same hospital at the same time, about 15 minutes apart. We're still good friends. I don't particularly believe in any of that star sign stuff, but it is super weird how similar the two of us are in personality, and especially our sense of humor. Story 4. Years after my wife and I got married, we were making out Christmas cards with her mom. We came across a mutual name in our lists. My aunt worked with my mother-in-law almost 10 years before I met my wife, and we never knew until that moment. Story 5. My family has been going to the same beach in Florida since my dad was a kid. When I was in high school, I met this really cute girl on the beach and hit it off really well, but she was staying at a hotel a few buildings north of us and was leaving a few days before we did so. We only got to hang out for 2 solid days. I made the mistake of not getting her phone number, and when she left, I felt like I would never see her again. That was back in 1999. In 2010, I was in college in Michigan, and at a party when I see this girl walk by and stop to talk with one of my roommates. She looked super familiar, so I went and said hi, and it turned out to be that same girl from the beach all those years ago. We hit it off and spent the next few hours chatting. We eventually dated for a little over a year, but broke up due to distance. Story 6. This happened just yesterday. I was downtown waiting in my truck outside of a job site to meet a man, who we will call Steve, for a job walk. I had never met Steve face to face. Another truck pulled into the parallel parking spot behind me, and a man got out with his leather-bound folder in hand. I got out of my truck and approached the man with my hand extended for a handshake and said, "Steve?" The man said, "Yes," and extended his hand with a confused look on his face. His name was Steve too, but it wasn't the Steve I was there to meet. We had a laugh about the coincidence. Story 7. We were having a very windy day, and I stepped outside of my house to go somewhere. As I stepped out, I heard a loud crack and looked across the road to see a large branch break off a tree and fall into the road. I was startled and wondering if I should go and check the number for the local park service to report it when I happened to glance at the line of vehicles slowing to maneuver around the fallen branch. Slightly back in the line was a park service truck towing a wood chipper. They pulled in next to the branch, and it was gone by the time I returned from my errand. Since the branch literally fell as I was watching it, They obviously weren't there specifically for that one, but given how windy it was, I'm guessing that they were traveling to or from another fallen branch tree and just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Story 8. In high school English class, 15 years ago, my twin sister and I both had to read this random book picked by the teacher. 15 years later, it randomly popped into my head again, so I bought the book to reread it. A month later, my sister visited from out of town, so I told her how I read that book again. Turns out she had also randomly bought the book and was reading it at the same time as me. There was also a time about 10 years ago I was riding in the car with my friend, and we were talking about a Backstreet Boys song and how we wanted to listen to it, and a few seconds later it came on the radio. We thought it was hilarious. About a year later, we're in the car again and say, "Remember that one time." A few seconds later, the song comes on again. Story 9. Back in the 90s, my friend Steve and I met up in Baltimore to go to an Orioles game. I got to the agreed-upon bar a little late, and Steve said he had been there a while and was talking with a young couple who had left for the game before I got there. We scalped some bleacher seats and went in the stadium, hoping we would be able to move up to better seats during the game. This was only a year or two after Camden Yards had opened, and it was sold out every game, so we weren't too optimistic, but I happened to spot a couple of empty seats about 20 rows behind the first base dugout. We made our way down there, and I asked the girl next to the empty seats if anyone was using them. She turned around and looked at us and said, "Oh my God, it's Steve!" Out of about 45,000 seats in a sold-out ballpark, we happened to find empty seats next to the couple that Steve had been talking to in the bar. Story 10. Went to preschool in my hometown 25 plus years ago, at the time. Was friends with lots of kids, and my mom was friends with their parents. Flash forward to a few years ago. I've moved way upstate and was dating a guy in a fraternity. My parents end up moving to a house in a nearby town and need help unpacking. So my then BF asks around his fraternity to see if anyone wants to help. One guy volunteers, and we all go to my parents' house to help. My mom has always been very interested in people, so she basically starts interviewing this guy. Turns out, yep, he's one of the kids I was friends with in preschool. Story 11. My dad and his friend, who were both from Sweden, went on a holiday to Las Vegas in the 80s. After a night of partying, they decide to go to a random diner, and while standing in the parking lot, they run into two Swedish girls who were also there on vacation. Maybe not that big of a coincidence, except the fact that my dad and that friend went to Vegas again exactly 10 years after, go to the same diner, and run into the same two women in the parking lot again. Hey again, guys. Sorry for uploading this late. I accidentally deleted the video the first time. Silly me, I know. I'm luckily starting to understand how to make these videos more efficiently. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to subscribe to stay updated, and leave a like while you are at it. It would mean a lot to me. Olivia the Redditor signing out.